Hello, the internet. I have a special treat for you guys today. It is an actual, honest-to-goodness book, made of paper and everything. It is called Seraphympire, Guardians of the Gateways. It is book one of a series by an Australian independent author named Renee Spyrou. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And kind of amusing story. We sort of ran into each other in a literary sense when the cover of her book ended up on a copy of one of my books due to a publishing error. And then I thought, well, that looks like an interesting story. Why don't I get it and read it? And then we chatted on Twitter a couple of times, and we decided that I would read out a passage from her book on my YouTube channel. And here it is. I'm just starting from chapter 2, completely devoid of context and completely without any knowledge of what's going on in the story. I mean, apart from what happened in the prologue and chapter 1, which I now know. And obviously, having read the book, I'm just going to be leaving it up to you guys to be left wanting more. And if you want to read the rest, get the book. Get the book. It's in hardcover. It's in paperback. It's different kinds of ebooks. There's all sorts, and it's all available online. Chapter 2. I haven't actually read out of a paper book before, so turning the pages is going to be an interesting challenge. The throbbing beat from the club across the street could be heard from the dark alley where Michaela stood. She liked the shadows. She could hide, become a part of them, and just vanish. She leaned back, moulding herself against the rough rock wall, cigarette in hand, observing the people coming and going. The underlying odour of the River Thames enveloped her. Years of water filtration couldn't mask the centuries of human excrement that wafted off the muddied waterway. It reminded her of the great stink of 1858. Well, okay, she's in London, and she can smell the poop. I've only been to London a couple of times. I couldn't smell the poop, but you know, I'm not a supernatural being of any kind. Lifting her cigarette to her mouth, she took a long, deep drag, savouring the nicotine as she... Cigarettes are really bad for your sense of smell too, by the way. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. She can smell the poop. She watched the white plume of smoke curl up into the night. Her eyes caught on the Big Ben clock tower, 11:55. She flicked her gaze back towards the club, tugging in another drag on her cigarette. There were a sundry of off-worlders on the cobbled streets. Their human camouflage couldn't hide what they were. The air surrounding them seemed to waver as if their images were reflected in rippling water. If only mortals could see what she saw. God, she was hungry. She looked up at the flashing neon sign above the establishment's doorway. The Devil's Pit. Somewhere between the Thames and Big Ben, there is a nightclub called the Devil's Pit. I can't help but feel that my trip to London was sorely wasted. A scantily clad girl clothed in a devil's costume stood holding a red plastic pitchfork near the entrance, smiling at the pedestrians on the street as they passed. Michaela could see goosebumps on the surface of the girl's skin. She regarded the girl's neck, watching the flow of blood pumping through her veins just below the surface of her skin. Michaela tilted her head, angling her ear to the side. She could even hear it. The young woman's heart rate was elevated, fluttering in a swift hummingbird beat. Michaela's fangs punched out, piercing her bottom lip. Ouch! Her mouth watered as she tasted blood. She licked her lip without thinking, sealing the holes with her saliva, and swallowed, the coppery liquid accentuating the growling emptiness in her stomach. It's the eye holes, not the writing at this point. You could grab a bite to eat inside. Shut up, bitch! I don't do humans anymore. Maybe you should. What would it hurt? You'd be stronger. I don't need to be stronger. Keep lying to yourself. Enough, she said, retracting her fangs and tossing her cigarette butt to the curb. Another night in the trenches. Being around humans was getting harder. I understand. She stepped from the shadows and made her way across the street towards the club with feline grace. Traffic stopped in both directions. People were transfixed by her beauty. As she passed them, her long, wavy gold copper hair brushed her leather-clad hips. She gazed up at the beefy bouncer. Bouncers all looked alike. Largish men, with military haircuts, tattoos covering the length of their arms, and an arrogance that pegged them in charge of a doorframe. He stepped aside. She brushed past him, making her way to the bar, pushing through the crowded, dark, flashing room. The club was a regular haunt for people like her. She signalled the bartender and ordered herself a shot of Southern Comfort. "Put it on my tab." The bartender nodded and poured her drink. She rested her back against the stainless steel bar and downed her shot, licking the residue from her lips as the alcohol burned a path down her throat like liquid fire. Michaela surveyed the spacious room and its occupants. Vampires, demons, werewolves, witches, warlocks, fae, off-worlders of every denomination, and a few human transients on the dance floor as well. "Fucking vamp wannabes," she mumbled. She breathed in her surroundings and was smothered by stale tobacco, spilt beer... Maybe in this place there's stale tobacco, but in most places they'd already banned smoking quite a while ago. But again, special smelly scents. Unwashed bodies and the unmistakable scent of dying human cells. Okay, I take that back about the tobacco. She probably could still smell it. Also the poop. She held her breath so as not to smell the one thing she couldn't resist. Blood. The low hum of the smoke machine was a labouring undertone to the thumping techno music. It wasn't doing its job. She could still see the chipped, cracked flooring. People gyrated on the dance floor. They leaned against walls that were draped in deep red velvet curtains. They stood around stainless steel tables, drinking cocktails. They sat making out on red, lip-shaped couches in poorly lit corners. They laughed, flirted, danced. Some were having sex. Good Lord. The smell of copulation, a musty, sour odour sticking to the dust particles in the air. Her nostrils flared. Michaela could hear the moaning and grunting in the background, even with the techno music at ear-splitting levels. "Hey there, pretty lady. Do you come here often?" "Very funny, Reese," she said, frowning. "Can I buy you a drink, pretty lady?" Reese said, resting an elbow on the bar. I have to take a little break while I turn this page. I don't think I'm going to get it quite. Here we go. Yes. "Can I buy you a drink, pretty lady?" Reese said, resting an elbow on the bar. "Nope." She punched his arm. "Ouch," he yelped, rubbing it vigorously. "Don't be cruel, honey. I'm just trying to buy you a drink." "Well, get me a bloody drink and shut the fuck up." She pulled a candy red Zippo lighter from a pocket in her black leather biker jacket, lit another cigarette and took a lengthy drag. She stared at Reese, giving him a swift once-over, and exhaled slowly. He was sexy, with a tall athletic build and a pale complexion, striking oval face, dark eyes, and shoulder-length ash-blonde hair tied in a ponytail behind his head. They'd had a fling once, long ago, when he was a fledgling, before Anna. It was crazy sex and a big mistake. He was an annoying little shit, a try-hard comedian. It had been the longest fucking week of her life. "So do you know why Vasily has called this meeting?" he asked, in a more serious tone, handing her a drink as he spoke. "What else is there?" "New bloods." "You got it." "So where's Anna?" Michaela asked, looking around the club. "She's checking the perimeter." He examined the crowded dance floor. "Old habits die hard, huh?" "Yeah," he said, flashing perfect teeth. "Are the others coming too?" "That's a real dumb question, Reese." "Do you think it's recruitment or dismemberment?" "Who cares, as long as we get to kill something." "I've got a joke for you, Michaela." "Spare me the torture, Reese," she said, rolling her eyes. "What do you get when you cross a bulldog with a shih tzu?" "A bullshit!" He laughed uproariously. "Ah ha ha ha, you're so funny. Not. You need to find new material, Reese, because the Jim Carrey jokes are getting old." Actually, that's a Jeff Daniels joke. If you think about Dumb and Dumber, it was the Jeff Daniels character. Never mind. "Why do you always have to ruin the moment, Michaela?" he said, brushing his forefinger over his eyebrow. "I get off on it. Lighten up, you're too serious. Relax and be happy." "I am relaxed, see?" she said, rotating her shoulders and neck, taking another drag on her cigarette and raising her finger for another shot. She did. "You'd have done the Macarena." "I'm with it. I'm hip." She upended the glass in one mouthful. "You're seriously fucked up, Michaela. You're just realizing this now? I'm 4,000 years old, Reese. You don't live as long as I have and not get damaged. In time, you'll be just like me." She ashed her cigarette on the floor. "God, I hope not. I want to live, love, and laugh." He strolled off towards a woman wearing a sexy little red number. He leaned in close and whispered in her ear. "Sure, handsome, let's dance," the woman giggled. Michaela turned back to the bar and ordered another 4 shots, flicking the Zippo lid back and forth as she waited. Reese's happy-go-lucky attitude disgusted her. How could a vampire be happy? A happy vampire? No. I agree. I'm with Michaela on this one. He'd accepted his fate, the good and the bad aspects. He was content with what he was, but he was still young. She was ancient in comparison, with a lot more baggage. He hadn't fought in the wars she had. "I'm fucked," she murmured, and downed another shot. She faced the crowded dance floor, scanning the room, searching for anything out of the ordinary. Her eyes lingered on faces here and there. The club was dark except for the strobe lights reflecting off the mirrored disco balls, creating a waterfall of twinkling, star-like lights that showered the room and its occupants in dazzling coloured droplets. Her vision wasn't hindered by the darkness, but it could have been better. Blood would have fixed it. Have some human blood, you'll feel so much better. Now this inner monologue is talking in Homer's voice. Human blood. Shut up, just shut the fuck up and leave me the fuck alone, she mumbled as she noticed a shrouded individual sitting in the far corner of the club. She opened her senses and probed his mind. It was soulless. It felt as though her thoughts were being sucked into a vacuum, a black void of nothingness. It wasn't new to her. She felt it a lot lately herself. Her gaze progressed along a row of people leaning against a wall. She regarded a man. He looked elsewhere, but she could tell he was relaxed. He had a rare celestial quality, a casual gracefulness to his movements. Other patrons were dwarfed by his towering stature. As he moved, his shirt clung to his body, emphasizing his muscular physique. His shoulder-length wavy hair was the color of dark molasses, with threaded copper. Michaela had an irrepressible urge to walk over and drag her fingers slowly through it. He was gorgeous. She never entertained thoughts like this, Kayla did, not her. Kayla is the alter ego of Michaela. She's another character who occupies the same body. But, read the story. He's cute. Can we go over and talk to him? Kayla said, surprising her. What the fuck? You can't be awake. It's night time. Yes, I can. Let's go over and say hi. No, go back to sleep. It's my turn, not yours. Michaela's in charge of the body at night time, and Kayla is in charge of the body during the day. This is what I've gathered so far. I want him, Michaela. Well, you can't have him. He glanced up and noticed Michaela staring at him. Probably also noticed her talking to herself. He watched her with equal interest, casually making eye contact. The corners of his mouth hooked up in a seductive smile, almost teasing her to do the same. His eyes were the colour of honeyed amber, his mouth too tempting to ignore, with lips way too full to be on the face of a man. He was strong, his angular jaw all male ruggedness, his physique mouth-watering. He was a god, an Adonis. Oh my goodness. I think I lactated a little bit reading that. She couldn't place where she'd seen eyes that colour before. His animal magnetism drew her to him, a beast luring in its prey. Michaela shook her head and turned back towards the bar, dropped her cigarette butt on the floor, stomped it out, and grabbed another of her shots, downing it quickly. She looked over her shoulder again, regarding him openly, imagining what it would be like to love a man like him. Kayla, would you stop? I can't help it. Michaela saw him smile again. Tenderness washed over her, soaking into her very marrow. It was riveting. She couldn't look away. His smile widened, displaying deep dimples at either side of his temples, either side of his tempting mouth. She felt as though she was being physically caressed, as if he knew her innermost thoughts. Impossible. She was able to seal her thoughts. She sighed inwardly, yearning for something more. I'm a fucking freak, she muttered, lighting another cigarette. She didn't feel things like this, never had and never would. She didn't know if they were her feelings or Kayla's. Michaela, please. Kayla never whined, never asked for her for anything, especially when she was in control of their body. What the hell? She looked away from him and continued examining the room, trying to distract her wayward thoughts. There seemed to be no imminent threat in the club, nothing out of the ordinary. She glanced back at the man. She couldn't stop herself. She knew he was still watching her, waiting for her to make a move. She wanted to, but didn't. She hadn't wanted anything as much in her long life, except blood. There was always the blood. His allure beckoned her from across the room. She twisted back towards the bar and picked up her last shot. Fuck me, she thought, wishing Vasily and the others would hurry up and make an appearance. If they didn't show soon, she'd end up sinking her teeth into the stranger's smooth neck. Her thirst for blood had always been stronger than her sexual appetite, only just. What she wouldn't give for some mind-blowing sex, though, to relieve the tension. She slipped another quick glance over her shoulder. He was staring at her, hungry eyes. She recognized the predatory look. An image flashed in her mind of their bodies entwined. The cigarette she held fell to the ground as she threw back her head and grabbed the edge of the bar with her hands, the cool stainless steel bending in her tight grip. She gasped for breath and glanced down at her reflection in the glossy surface of the bar, and was surprised by her shimmering eyes as they fluctuated between a red-violet and a golden hue. So, I'm assuming that is when the two characters have different coloured eyes, and when they're taking, maybe they're struggling. The metal moulded in her hands like pliable plasticine. She wasn't there to pick up men, no matter how attractive they were. The consuming nothingness, the emptiness, the resentment afterwards didn't take away what she wanted, needed. It always came back down to blood. Not just any blood, the rarest of all human blood, the HH blood type, the Bombay phenotype, the kind of blood she refused to drink. She was addicted to rare bloods like HH. I looked up on Wikipedia, HH blood. It is actually a thing. Renee's done her homework here. It's also called the O blood type. O as in O! And later on in this book, or in another book, I want a vampire to make a "let me show you my O face," and then go with blood. I want to see that. I want an O face joke, just because. Blood type. AB negative was the sweetest of all. O negative came close. When she smelt them, it was hard to resist the urge to feed, a lesson she'd learnt a long time ago. She wasn't going to make the same mistake again. She had no choice. If she did go back to her old ways, the punishment would be far worse a second time round, and she couldn't go back to living in the dungeon for another 200 years. It had almost killed Kayla, and the guilt Michaela had felt because of it had almost cost her sanity. It was Kayla's body as well. As much as she hated to admit it, Michaela needed her. Without Kayla, there would be no balance, no good in her. She wanted to believe that. Fool, you drink blood, you've killed thousands. Good, you are no good, you're a killer. It's the only thing you're good at, her nemesis droned. So this is another voice inside her head. But not someone she's sharing the body with, as far as I can tell. It's just her nemesis. You gotta have a nemesis. She sensed the arrival of Vasily and the others. It was the distraction she needed. She scowled at her frowning reflection on the bar's glossy surface, the muscles in her jaw clenching and unclenching as she ground her teeth together, her elongated fangs piercing her bottom lip for a second time that night. Ouch. She couldn't help but feel animosity for her colleagues, bitter after everything they'd done to her. All eyes were on them. Their group tended to draw an uncommon amount of attention. She lit another cigarette and took a long drag, waiting. Chapter 2. Seraphympire. Pretty cool. I like the setup. I like the way that the stories come together. I like the interesting characters, and you often expect these sort of independent authors have this bad reputation for just shoveling out any old thing, but there's a lot of work's gone into this, and a lot of research, and a lot of editing, and Jeff Daniels. It was Jeff Daniels, not Jim Carrey. But apart from that, it was perfect. So, yeah. Well, get the book. Read it. See ya.